Welcome back to the Board Business Channel, everyone. I'm super excited for today's episode because we're diving into a company that's, well, let's just say they're kind of a big deal in Taiwan. We're talking about PX Mart, which is like, imagine if Walmart and a supermarket had a baby. That's PX Mart. And a huge shout out to Steve, the executive director of the Arizona Taiwan office. He's the one who put PX Mart on our radar. It's actually part of his awesome plan to introduce more amazing Taiwanese companies to the U.S. market. So, okay. PX Mart, over 1,200 stores across Taiwan. That's pretty wild, right? Especially considering they started with just 66. How did they pull that off? What's the secret sauce?
Well, let's just say they're masters of strategy. Instead of going head-to-head with the big supermarket chains in the major cities, they did something really clever.
Ooh, I love a good, clever business move. So what did they do?
They went straight for the smaller towns and villages. The places where the big guys weren't really paying attention. They called it their rural surrounds the city strategy.
Rural surrounds the city. That sounds kind of backwards, doesn't it? Why focus on the countryside first?
Think of it like this. They were like a band, playing small gigs, building a loyal fan base, before hitting the big stadium concerts. In those smaller towns, PX Mart could really connect with the community, offer great prices, and become the go-to supermarket.
Okay, so they built that solid foundation
Yeah.
before building the skyscraper, right?
Right.
But still, how do you go from small towns to over 1,200 stores? That's a massive jump.
Right. Well, this is where it gets even more interesting. They didn't just open new stores in the countryside. They also started buying up smaller competitors. They even took over locations from a big chain that went belly up.
Whoa, talk about seizing opportunities. So they were growing organically and through these strategic acquisitions?
Exactly. They were like a snowball rolling downhill, getting bigger and bigger with every move. But here's the thing. They didn't just stop at one type of store.
Oh, so they didn't just stick with those small town vibes.
Yeah.
People want options, right?
You know it. As they expanded into bigger cities, they realized they needed to shake things up. So they started experimenting with different store formats to appeal to different types of shoppers.
Ooh, like different flavors of the same ice cream?
Yeah.
I'm all about options. Tell me more about these store formats.
Okay, well, they kept their original first-generation stores, the ones that focused on basic needs and low prices, but then they introduced PX Mart, bigger stores with more fresh food, ready-to-eat meals, and a more modern vibe.
So they were catering to those busy city folks who need a quick and easy meal, but also want something a little fancier than the basic supermarket experience. Makes sense.
Right on. But wait, there's more. They also piloted second-generation stores. These focused on local produce and regional specialties. It was like bringing the farmer's market right into the supermarket.
Oh, wow. So they were tapping into that eat local trend, showing some love to local farmers and businesses. Pretty savvy. What else did they cook up?
Hold on to your hats. They went all out with their third-generation stores. These were designed by a famous Japanese supermarket designer. Think sleek aesthetics, high-quality products, and a super enjoyable shopping experience. Like, way fancier than your average supermarket.
Wait, a Japanese designer? Didn't PX Mart also become the first overseas member of the All Japan Supermarket Association?
You got it. They were serious about learning from the best and bringing those top-notch ideas to Taiwan.
Wow. They really went from zero to hero in the supermarket world. But I have to ask,
Yeah.
what about the man behind the curtain? Didn't they have a superstar leader guiding them through all of this?
Oh, absolutely. We can't talk about PX Mart without mentioning James Xie, their former executive director. He was a total rock star who previously worked at 7-Eleven, and he brought that same level of expertise and vision to PX Mart.
So they had the brains, the strategy, and the leadership. But Fackel, no company's perfect, right? Surely they had some bumps in the road.
Well, every success story has its challenges. They've faced some criticism over the years, particularly about things like labor practices and how they've used celebrities in their ads. It's something they've been working to address. And it's definitely a reminder that even the most successful companies aren't immune to controversy.
That's a good point. Okay, so far we've got a company that started small, thought big, and expanded like crazy. They weren't afraid to try new things, learn from others, and adapt to changing customer needs.
Yeah.
But that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? What other tricks do they have up their sleeve? Tell me more.
Yeah, we've only just scratched the surface. Let's zoom in on those iMart stores for a second. Remember I said they were targeting busy city folks? Well,
Yeah.
they really nailed it with those stores.
Yeah. Those eMarts sounded pretty slick. Fresh food, ready-to-eat meals, a modern vibe, What's not to love?
Exactly. But it's not just about the food. They put a lot of effort into making the shopping experience itself enjoyable. Think bright lighting, wide aisles, and a clean, inviting atmosphere.
So they're competing with those fancy takeout places and restaurants, not just other supermarkets. It's like they're saying, hey, skip the cooking and the delivery fees, grab a delicious, healthy meal right here.
You got it. And it's clearly working, because those Marts have been a huge success for them. Now, remember those second-generation stores we talked about? The ones focusing on local goodies? Those are pretty clever, too.
Yeah. The eat local stores, it seems like every supermarket these days is trying to hop on that trend. But PX Mart was ahead of the curve, right?
Totally. And they didn't just slap a local label on some products. They really dug deep, partnering with local farmers and businesses to bring in unique and high-quality stuff you wouldn't find anywhere else.
Smart move. It's like they're giving shoppers a taste of the region, supporting local communities, and differentiating themselves from the competition, all at the same time.
Yeah.
Talk about a win-win-win.
Let's not forget those swanky third-generation stores designed by that Japanese superstar. It's almost like they wanted to create a supermarket that felt like a luxury boutique.
Seriously. Imagine walking into a supermarket. That feels like a high-end department store. That's a whole new level of grocery shopping. But I'm curious, did that fancy designer approach actually work? Did people buy into it?
Well, those stores have become super popular, especially among younger shoppers who are looking for a more elevated experience.
So they're not afraid to experiment and push the boundaries. They're like the mad scientists of the supermarket world, always coming up with new and exciting concoctions.
I love that analogy. And speaking of experimenting, let's talk about their marketing for a minute. These guys are known for being pretty bold and creative.
Oh, yeah. I've heard they're not afraid to have a little fun with their ads. It's not your typical boring supermarket stuff, right?
Totally. They use humor, catchy jingles, and even a bit of social commentary in their campaigns. They're not afraid to poke fun at themselves or even address some sensitive social issues.
So they're not just selling groceries. They're trying to connect with people on a deeper level, start conversations, and even spark a little debate. That's pretty daring for a supermarket.
Right. It's definitely a risky strategy. But it seems to be paying off. They've managed to create a brand that feels relatable, authentic, and even a bit edgy. It's like they're saying, we're not just a faceless corporation, we're part of the community, and we care about the same things you do.
And that authenticity really shines through in their community engagement efforts as well, right? Didn't they establish some foundations to support social causes?
Absolutely. They've been actively involved in supporting education, the arts, and social welfare programs. They're putting their money where their mouth is, which is something customers really appreciate.
It's like they're saying, we're not just here to take your money, we're here to make a positive impact on the world.
That's a powerful message. But let's get back to their growth for a second. We talked about those acquisitions, but I'm curious about the nitty-gritty details. How did they make those acquisitions work? It's not always easy to integrate different companies and cultures, right?
You're absolutely right. It can be a tricky business, but PX Mart seems to have figured out a winning formula.
Okay. Spill the tea. What's their secret? Well, instead of forcing those acquired companies to completely change their ways, they took a more collaborative approach. They allowed them to keep some of their own unique elements while also integrating them into the larger PX Mart family.
So it's like a blended family, where everyone brings their own traditions and quirks to the table,
Yeah.
but ultimately they become one big happy unit.
Exactly. And by respecting those differences and finding ways to blend them together, they've been able to create a more diverse and dynamic company.
That's a lesson a lot of businesses could learn from. It's not always about erasing what came before. It's about finding ways to build upon it and create something even stronger. But let's rewind a bit. We talked about those controversies they face. I'm curious to hear more about that. What exactly happened and how did they handle it?
Well, like any big company, they've had their share of missteps. One of the big criticisms they faced was related to labor practices. There were concerns about working conditions and employee treatment.
Ouch, that's never good. How did they respond to those allegations? Did they just brush it under the rug?
Not at all. To their credit, they acknowledged the issues and took steps to address them. They implemented new policies, improved working conditions, and even reached out to labor unions to find solutions.
So they listened to the criticism, took responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
and made changes. That's a good sign. It shows they're not just focused on profits, they're actually committed to doing the right thing.
Exactly. And that's really important for building trust with customers and employees. Now, As for the celebrity image controversy, that was a bit of a public relations nightmare.
Oh, tell me more about that. Did they get sued or something?
Well, it wasn't quite that dramatic, but it did cause quite a stir. They used a celebrity's image in one of their ad campaigns without permission, which obviously didn't go over well.
Yikes, that's a big no-no in the advertising world. It's like borrowing your neighbor's car without asking. Not cool.
Right, and they paid the price for it. They had to apologize publicly, pull the ad campaign, and it definitely damaged their reputation for a while.
So it was a costly mistake.
Yeah.
But hopefully they learned from it. It's a reminder that even the most successful companies can make dumb decisions.
Absolutely. And it's a testament to their resilience that they were able to bounce back from those setbacks.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about their clever strategies, their diverse store formats, their bold marketing, their community engagement, and even those bumps in the road. But what does this all mean for our listeners? Why should they care about the story of PX Mart? What can they learn from it?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are so many takeaways here, especially for folks who are running their own businesses or anyone interested in the retail world, you know?
Okay, so for all our listeners out there, what are the big lessons we can learn from PX Mart's success?
Well, first off, PX Mart shows the power of starting small, building a solid foundation. They didn't try to conquer the world overnight. They focused on winning over one small town at a time.
Right. It's like that old saying, slow and steady wins the race. They built that loyal customer base first, and that gave them the springboard to expand to bigger markets.
Exactly. And they weren't afraid to experiment and try new things. Those different store formats are a perfect example. A one-size-fits-all approach doesn't always work, so they tailored their stores to meet the needs of different communities and customers.
It's like they're saying, hey, we're not just going to assume we know what you want. We're going to listen to you, learn from you, and adapt to give you the best possible shopping experience. Pretty smart, right?
Totally. And don't forget their marketing savvy. They've shown that even a supermarket can be a cool and engaging brand. They're not afraid to use humor, creativity, even a little social commentary to get people talking.
Yeah. It's like they're saying, hey, we're not just a boring old supermarket. We're fun, we're relatable, and we get you.
Yeah.
That's a powerful way to build brand loyalty.
Right.
And they also demonstrate the importance of community engagement. Those foundations they established show that they're committed to giving back and making a positive impact. It's not all about selling groceries. Customers these days really care about that.
Absolutely. It's like they're saying, hey, we're not just here to make a profit. We're here to be a good neighbor and support the things that matter to our community. It's a win-win for everyone.
Absolutely. And finally, I think they teach us a valuable lesson about resilience. They face some tough challenges, those controversies we talked about, but they didn't let those setbacks define them. They owned their mistakes, took steps to make things right, and kept moving forward.
That's so important. Every business is going to make mistakes, it's inevitable. But how you respond to those mistakes really matters. PX Mart showed that you can learn from your mistakes, make amends, and come back even stronger.
Right on. So, yeah, there's a lot to admire about PX Mart, and a lot we can learn from them. They're a shining example of how to build a successful, customer-centric, and socially responsible business. Couldn't have said it better myself. PX Mart, you guys are rock stars. And Steve, thanks again for connecting us with this amazing company. We're so grateful for your work and bringing these Taiwanese businesses to the U.S. market.
It's been a pleasure diving into the world of PX Mart with you.
Likewise. And to all our listeners, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Board Business Channel. We had a blast exploring the fascinating world of PX Mart. We hope you learned a thing or two along the way. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. See you next time.